It's a lot of fun to program, but it's not always fun to read a program that you or someone else wrote 6 months or a year ago. Looking at an old program sometimes feels like you are reading a foreign language. And it's really easy to forget why you programmed something the way you did. And remember, your code is not just for the JavaScript engine to interpret. You should always consider other developers who might read and work with your code, especially while you are working as a team. Fortunately, JavaScript provides a way to leave messages in your code that can help explain what's happening in a program. When you or other developers look at your code later, these messages or comments can quickly help describe what's going on in the program. You can add comments anywhere in your JavaScript code. They're ignored by a web browser and don't affect how your program works. Where should you put the comments? Well, it's a good idea to add comments to identify different sections of code. For example, to explain a long conditional statement or to explain complex blocks of code. Comments not only help you, but also anyone else who works with your code. In JavaScript, there are two different types of comments: single-line comments and multi-line comments. Single-line comments are represented by 2 forward slashes. Everything following the slashes until the end of the line is ignored by the browser. If you want to add a long message to your code, you can use a multi-line comment, which begins with a forward slash and asterisk. Anything following those 2 characters on the current line and following lines are ignored by the JavaScript engine until it encounters another final asterisk and forward slash. I'll teach you how to use JavaScript comments by documenting the number guessing game you wrote in the previous lecture. To code along with me, first download the course folder from the link in the description below, unzip it and open it with your favorite code editor. Here I'm using Visual Studio Code. From the course folder, open the exercise folder called JavaScript Conditional Statements. And then open the booleans-final.js file from the final folder. First, I'll add a multi-line comment that explains what the program does. It's a common practice to add a multi-line comment like this to the beginning of a JavaScript file. This is a place where many programmers put copyright notices and author information. Now, I'll add a single-line comment that says, developers usually include the comment directly above the code they are commenting on. In this case, I'm explaining what the next line of code does. Now, you don't need to comment every line of code. For example, the next 2 lines are pretty straightforward. This line stores the actual number in a variable, and the next line opens a prompt dialog and stores the user's input in a variable. You also might add a comment that explains a block of code. For example, the next part of this program is the first conditional statement, so you might add a multi-line comment to explain what it does. Next, I'll add a single-line comment to explain what happens in the final conditional statement. Finally, you can also write a single-line comment like this. This is also called an inline comment. But remember, too many of these comments can make your code messy and harder to read. So try to use comments when you really need them. You can also use comments to disable code and prevent it from running. For example, I'll comment out this line of code like this. Now the JavaScript engine is not going to run this line because it's commented out. So as you have learned, adding comments to your code is not only good for you, but also anyone else who needs to see your code in the future. So get in the habit of using them.